Hello, Robin. Thank you for joining me today to answer a couple of questions about your experience at Ironhack. Now, to start off, what initially drew you to UX UI design, and why did you choose Ironhack for your bootcamp experience?
Yes, yeah. So thank you for having me. Um, and the first thing that actually drew me to UX is the fact that I really love creativity and problem solving. That's like a big thread throughout my life so far. Like creativity wise, I love music, making music. I had a YouTube channel with a friend before and all kinds of other fun creative experiments. But on the other side, I really like to solve problems.
Mhm.
And I was really in between careers and searching for what I really wanted to do. And then I found this term UX, and I had no idea what it means. I know that some friends also did UX, but never really got into looking it up, what it actually means. But when I did, I noticed that that was like something that I really needed to do because it really got me so excited. So I started to work on UX myself first. I started to read a lot of books and work on some projects as a freelancer in the beginning. And that was fun, but I noticed that it was quite hard to get a job because the market is just very saturated. Like a lot of people are getting into UX. So I needed to find a way to get into UX, get some proper experience and learn a lot in a very quick way.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided, okay, maybe it's time to look for a boot camp or like some short course or some short education on this. And looking for a boot camp, there were a couple of options, and I chose Ironhack because Ironhack had, to my mind, the most complete package. They were in multiple locations, even though in the end I decided to go for the remote option, which I really loved, by the way.
Mhm.
And something else that really drew me over the line was the fact that you also have career services at the end. So you have done all the work on learning a lot of new skills and you've worked on a lot of projects. You need some help to be zoomed out from that. And yeah, some people next to you who can really help you with finding a job and the best practices, how to build your LinkedIn and how to build your resume, how to build your portfolio the best way. So yeah, that's how I got to know Ironhack.
Great. And speaking of creativity and your love for music, what were your career goals before you started, and have they changed ever since you completed the program?
Yeah, my career goals were actually to really get into UX. So that was before the boot camp, and now the boot camp is already 2 years ago. Time really flies.
Yeah.
And I am happy to be working as UX designer, and I still absolutely love it. My career goals have changed slightly, as in that I want to solve even bigger problems. I want to make more impact, and I really want to refine my skills even more because as you get into the industry, you notice that there's a lot of different jobs. You have the corporate UX designer all the way until working at an agency where you have to do a lot more. I'm right now at the corporate side, and I noticed that I just want to expand that a little bit. I want to have a bigger impact. I want to make sure that we do the proper research, which is very essential for UX. Um,
Yes.
yeah, so that's something that really where I shift my focus to now. Yeah.
Amazing. And there's no doubt about it that you will expand 100%. And could you describe a typical day taking a UX UI design bootcamp at Ironhack?
Yes, of course. So I did the boot camp part-time. That was on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. But you have to realize that when you do a boot camp, that it's just work every day. You can
Yeah.
do it also some days less. It is possible, but also the outcome will just be less good. So if you really want it, I think it's essential to work on this every day and give it your all. So for me, I was still working during the time. After work, I would quickly eat something. We would have the boot camp from 6 to 9, if I remember correctly. After that, I would continue working until 11 or so. The next day, we had a day off. In the evening, I would still work on the boot camp, meet with my fellow students to work on it. And that was actually every day. So also on Saturday, it was from 9 till 3 out of my head. Then after that, I would work until 6. Also on Sundays, I would get some hours in. And it sounds very hard to do and a lot of hours. But personally, and that also counts for all the students, it was actually really fun to do because it's just crazy the pace it is and how much work you have to do. but it's also really cool, especially at the end. If you then make it and are graduating, it's really gives a great feeling.
Yeah, that's great to hear. It's rewarding in a way because if
Yeah,
you're not really passionate about the work, then it's just gonna seem like work to you,
yeah,
100%.
yeah, exactly.
So, speaking about work and the amount of material and subjects that are taught, what were some of the most challenging aspects of the boot camp, and how did you overcome them?
Um, I think in the way of material that there's just it's a very fast-paced field or very dynamic field, Wix.
Mm.
So I know that when I was done after it was 2022, that AI, for example, was having a huge boom.
Yeah.
It got really big. So it's just important that you keep learning all the way through. Already in 2022, by the way, there was a little bit coming up, but it was not yet in a boot camp. Still, I feel that there was that teachers tried to adapt really good in that and also gave advice to be able to always keep learning throughout the field since it is so dynamic. For the rest, I think the most challenging part was because everything was explained really well, I have to say. The most challenging thing is to really get into depth, and
Mm.
definitely on the platform that you offer where you can also learn yourself, there's so much information, but it's just essential to keep asking the questions. So I would really give as an advice to prepare beforehand, before you have the lesson, and then go to the lesson where you talk about that subject, because then you can ask even more in-depth questions.
Nice. And how was the help with it from the instructors and teachers from the boot camp? Did you receive the guidance that you needed at that time?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the guidance is really honest, I have to say, but in a very constructive way.
Hmm.
So if they don't really like something, or if they see that you're really working on assumptions, for example, which you really shouldn't do in UX, then they would also just honestly tell you. So it was really helpful. Like I said, brutally honest, but in such a good way, really, really constructive. So that's really helped a lot.
Beautiful. And what was your favorite part of the boot camp? I don't know if you mentioned it, but something that stood out during the entire experience.
Yeah, it's hard to name one because there were
Yeah.
so many, but I think in general, the best thing is to yeah, have so many different projects with different people. That's something that I found very or important, because you can choose yourself if you want to stay in the same group or if you want to mix it up. But I really like to mix it up because you get to work with a lot of different people, a lot of different characters, so that's extra learning on top of it.
Exactly.
And I really love that because it's so important. Also, what I notice now with my job, that you can work with different types of people, and also to really listen to each other, to really be able to collaborate effectively together, because then you get so much further than just to push your own thoughts onto someone. So I really loved working together with a lot of people. And some other part that I really loved is at the end, you got to work with a proper client. That
Hmm.
was also very exciting to actually talk with people for a business and to really offer a solution that has great value to them. So yeah, I think those two things really stood out.
Yeah, I agree with you. For me, when I'm learning, I need people around me that gives me motivation. I feel like with community learning, it's really truly the best type of learning.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and so did Ironhack's career services, I know you mentioned this before, but just to get into a little more depth, they
Hmm.
prepare you for the job market, and if so, how?
Yeah, so I have to say how career services work is really valuable. We were done with the bootcamp and I had my portfolio ready, and then it was time to actually start applying. But how do you do that? How do you write good cover letters? How do you build your LinkedIn profile? How do you build like a good, I don't know, or have good interviews, for example? All those things are so crucial and essential.
Yes.
And you can also Google it yourself, of course, or now these times ask ChatGPT, for example. But it is essential and very nice that someone actually have already done that work for you, especially after a boot camp, and to really bridge that gap between, okay, you have some expertise right now and you want to find a job. And Ironhack did a really great job in that. They actually really helped with building a very successful LinkedIn profile. That really helped also with cover letters, practicing interviews. So all the essential things that you need to do in order to land a good job, they really helped with. yeah, tremendously. So it
That's
was for me very helpful. Also afterwards, like if someone got a job, they can still even stay in some sessions where they can help other people out. So again, this community learning or very supportive surroundings, that was really helpful.
that's amazing to hear. And what specific skills or projects from the boot camp, or no, never mind, sorry. Talk to us about your current role and how were you
Yeah,
able to find it? Skip the question.
of course. Yeah, so right now I'm a UX designer
Mhm.
since last year, April, at a big corporate company in finance, in pension. Um, which is really interesting. I really like it because you can have a big impact on people and how they can make sure that they understand what
Mhm.
their finance options will be in the future. It's also very challenging because no one is really thinking about their pension since it's so far away. But that's one of the reasons that I really liked it because it's not very present to people right now. They don't really have a lot of time or interest to learn more about it, but people are busy right now with their own finances on more shorter term or maybe investing in stocks. So that's a bit longer term. And there is some bridge to be made right there. Also, when there is very important information, for example, when you switch jobs or when something happens, you still need to be informed. So how can you do that in the best way possible for the user without overwhelming them with all the complex information there is? Because believe me, there's so much information on the background, but that is such a fine line, and I really like that challenge to be able to do that in a very understandable way for the user. So yeah, my role is a UX designer at this company then, and I work on different projects. That goes from working on a design system, for example, an internal application that our employees use, and the latest big project that I worked on is there will be a big pension reform in the Netherlands, and the users have to be informed about it. What will change for them? So
Mhm.
imagine how interested they are in that and what a challenge it might be to actually build those pages. But we did it, and I'm yeah pretty proud how we did it with the team.
Love that. No, UX researchers or UX designers, I feel like they're very underrated. No one really knows the depth of work that they do for the user's experience. So, no, I hats off to you guys. And what
Thanks.
specific skills or projects from the bootcamp that you most used in your current role or that you found most, beneficial in terms of
Hmm.
your position?
I think there's one thing from the bootcamp that really helped me tremendously, and that was that the teacher said, like, don't spend too much time on it. Don't analyze, overanalyze it, or as we call analysis paralysis. After all, do the best you can and move on, move on, move on. Because this is something that if you're done with the bootcamp, you don't have that huge time pressure anymore. You still have some pressure, but different. So you can take more time, and therefore you have the space and the room to have a lot of analysis paralysis. So sometimes I really tend to set a timer for myself and think back to the bootcamp days and was like, yeah, sometimes I really finished this like an affinity diagram in just 2 hours and moved on. I just wrote down the best insights, and then I feel like, yeah, but am I not forgetting something? No, probably not. Like if you have the core problems, you can always get back to it, but it's really important to keep moving. So
Mm.
I think that's really the biggest lesson that I learned. Yeah, upon so many other lessons, of course, but that's more skill based on UX.
Amazing. And I know you answered a bit of this in terms of preparation, but what advice would you give to someone who is considering a career in UX UI design or who wants to start a UX UI design bootcamp?
Yeah, so if it's people who in general want to get into UX UI, then I would definitely advise to do a boot camp. And the most important thing is for that you learn from each other. It's like so much faster than learning by yourself. It's a huge lesson for me because I love to study books and do all things on my own. But if you do it with other people, trust me, it goes so much better. So that's one. And for people wanting to start the boot camp, really get the most out of it for yourself. And that means be very dedicated to learning the material very strictly. Maybe dive into some extra research if you want, but I really feel that there's enough to be read already on the Ironhack portal.
Yeah,
Yeah, so just participate with your 100%, and that will be my biggest advice.
amazing. And there we're at the end. Are there any final words that you would want to say that you didn't get to mention, before we end this?
I think enjoy. It's quite a ride. Make time for it, mental time for it. But I know that also people did it while there was some girl who did it while she was pregnant
Mm,
and got a baby. Sorry, no, she just had a baby, but still did it, which is
nice.
amazing. Someone was traveling the world and did this, so it is really possible. But it is really, really fun to do. It's quite intensive, but it's really fun, and yeah, it will give you a lot of nice experiences.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Robin, for your time.
Thank you.